The numbers don't lie, and right now they are starting to turn. Dubai, the city that rose from sand and ambition, is beginning to see cracks in the foundation of its tourism empire. Not suddenly, not loudly, but in ways that are becoming harder to ignore. The pressure is building across landmarks once considered untouchable, and the global travel industry is starting to whisper something that would have sounded impossible just a few years ago. Some of Dubai's most iconic, most photographed, most aggressively promoted attractions are no longer delivering the results they once did. Some are losing momentum. Some are becoming harder to justify. And a few are beginning to look increasingly fragile. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not sensationalism. This is what happens when a city builds its global identity on spectacle, and the world starts looking for something more. Let me show you where the pressure is starting to appear. Step inside the Dubai Mall. On paper, it is still the most visited building on Earth. Over 100 million visitors a year at its peak. The largest mall ever constructed. An indoor ice rink in the middle of the desert. A massive aquarium attracting crowds from morning to midnight. A fountain engineered to stop people in their tracks. For years, the formula worked almost perfectly. Build scale no competitor could match. Concentrate global brands in one location. Turn tourism into spending. But the environment surrounding retail has changed. E-commerce has weakened one of the core assumptions behind mega malls. Luxury brands that once depended on flagship locations are increasingly shifting toward direct digital relationships and smaller boutique formats. Foot traffic still exists, but conversion is becoming less predictable. Walk through certain corridors on a weekday afternoon and the difference is visible. Not empty, but thinner than before. Some anchor tenants have renegotiated leases. Others have reduced physical footprint while expanding online channels. The fountain outside still draws crowds every evening. Phones raised. Music begins. Water rises into the night sky. But the fountain is free. It generates attention. It generates imagery. But attention does not always translate into spending. Scale still attracts visitors. But scale alone no longer guarantees performance. And if the world's most visited mall is facing pressure, it raises a larger question about other attractions built on the same logic. The Dubai Frame. A 150-meter golden structure designed to symbolize transition. Old Dubai on one side, modern Dubai on the other. A physical metaphor for transformation. It photographs well. It communicates a clear message. It attracted strong early curiosity. But curiosity does not always sustain demand. The observation deck offers a clear view but not a dramatically different one from many other towers across the city. The museum experience inside is limited. The glass floor walkway creates a brief moment of excitement, but the visit is short. 5 minutes of novelty rarely drives repeat visits. Ticket sales have struggled to match early expectations. Reviews often describe the attraction as interesting but optional, and optional experiences are easy to postpone. Observation decks exist in nearly every major global city. Skyline photography is no longer rare. Social media has normalized visual spectacle. When visual novelty becomes common, memorability becomes harder to maintain. And when an attraction becomes optional, demand gradually softens. Not immediately, but consistently. Because Dubai's tourism model depends on maintaining a sense of exception. When experiences begin to feel interchangeable, pressure accumulates quietly, which brings us to an attraction built on repeat local visitors rather than global spectacle. Global Village. Every winter season, millions walk through its gates. Pavilions representing more than 90 countries, street food from across continents, cultural shows, lights reflecting across artificial canals. For many middle-income residents, it became one of the few affordable entertainment options in the city. High visitor volume supported stable seasonal demand, but the economic environment supporting that volume is shifting. The cost of living in Dubai has increased significantly since 2021. Rent has climbed. Utilities have risen. Service costs continue moving upward. The working and middle-income expatriate population that form the core repeat audience is facing increasing financial pressure. Some are spending less, some are leaving, some are choosing cheaper alternatives. Global Village depends on consistent attendance. When repeat visitors become more price-sensitive, demand becomes less predictable. At the same time, international tourists often treat Global Village as a one-evening curiosity rather than a primary destination. It rarely drives flight bookings. When an attraction depends on residents whose spending power is tightening while remaining optional for higher-spending visitors, positioning becomes fragile, not collapsing, but exposed. And few attractions demonstrate the tension between ambition and operating cost more clearly than the next case. Ski Dubai. When it opened in 2005, it felt impossible. Real snow inside a shopping mall. Chairlifts operating in a city where outdoor temperatures regularly exceed 45 degrees Celsius. It became one of the clearest symbols of Dubai's belief that engineering could overcome geography. For years, visitors queued to experience winter in the desert, but novelty fades. Maintaining sub-zero temperatures in one of the hottest climates on Earth requires enormous energy consumption. Cooling systems run continuously. Snow production must be maintained daily. Infrastructure ages under constant thermal stress. As energy prices increase globally, operating costs increased with them. At the same time, alternatives are emerging. New mountain resorts are under development across the region. Saudi Arabia's Trojana project aims to create large-scale winter tourism infrastructure. Natural mountain destinations in Georgia and Azerbaijan offer real snow environments at lower cost. When real mountains compete with artificial ones, pricing pressure increases. There is also a perception shift. A growing segment of travelers considers environmental impact when choosing destinations. Indoor snow in the desert once signaled technological confidence. Now it raises questions about sustainability. Attendance has not disappeared. But the sense of impossibility that once drove global curiosity has weakened. And when emotional impact softens, pricing power often softens with it. Which brings pressure to another dimension of Dubai's tourism identity. Al Fahidi. Narrow alleyways. Wind towers designed to capture desert air. Sand-colored walls shaped long before glass skyscrapers defined the skyline. Inside Al Fahidi Fort sits the Dubai Museum. Exhibits on pearl diving, trade routes that connected the Gulf to Africa, India, and Persia. This is the version of Dubai that existed before spectacle became strategy. Authentic cultural anchors, but they exist within a tourism narrative dominated by futuristic imagery. Dubai's global brand emphasizes height, scale, engineering extremes. Historic districts communicate something quieter. Visitors expecting visual intensity often experience heritage sites as secondary stops rather than primary motivations for travel. Funding for preservation rarely matches investment directed toward mega projects. Without continuous curation, historic districts risk becoming visual backdrops rather than living cultural centers. Photos replace engagement. Atmosphere replaces understanding, and when historical depth becomes secondary, differentiation becomes more difficult as competitors offer both scale and heritage. Which brings us to one of the most ambitious developments in Dubai's recent history. Expo City Dubai. Originally built to host the World Expo, the site welcomed more than 24 million visits during the 6-month event. Pavilions from 192 countries, billions invested in infrastructure. Transport links extended deep into the desert. The long-term vision extends beyond the expo. Offices, residential buildings, hotels, research centers. Cultural venues surrounding the Al Wasl Dome. A city within the city. But urban ecosystems rarely emerge instantly. Expo City sits far from traditional centers of daily activity. Surrounding population density remains limited. Businesses evaluating relocation compare multiple regional alternatives. Large developments require critical mass. Without sufficient density, even well-designed districts struggle to generate organic momentum. The buildings are complete, the architecture is striking, the infrastructure is operational, but cities are defined by daily activity. Movement, interaction, repetition. Without consistent daily flow, even a multi-billion-dollar development can feel like a stage waiting for actors. And this brings us to one of the most recognizable symbols of Dubai's global image. The Dubai Fountain. Every evening, crowds gather along the edge of Burj Lake. Music begins. Water rises into the air, synchronized with light and sound. It remains one of the most widely shared visual experiences in the city. Accessible, inclusive, familiar, but the fountain generates little direct revenue. Its value depends on supporting surrounding retail, hospitality, and real estate pricing. If surrounding commercial performance weakens, the economic logic supporting the fountain weakens as well. Spectacle alone does not monetize itself. For 2 decades, Dubai built a tourism economy on superlatives. Tallest, largest, most ambitious. Scarcity created advantage, but scarcity rarely lasts. Saudi Arabia is investing heavily in tourism mega projects. Abu Dhabi continues expanding cultural positioning. Qatar leverages global infrastructure visibility. Oman promotes geographic diversity difficult to replicate artificially. Competition is increasing. At the same time, traveler preferences are evolving. Scale still attracts attention, but attention alone no longer guarantees memorability. Impressive destinations now compete with meaningful ones. Iconic architecture competes with cultural depth. Engineered spectacle competes with perceived authenticity. Dubai remains one of the most recognizable tourism brands in the world, but recognition does not eliminate competition. The landmarks we explored are not failing. They are adapting to a more complex environment than the one in which they were originally built. The logic that created rapid growth is encountering new constraints. Over the next 5 years, decisions about reinvestment, positioning, and differentiation will likely determine which attractions evolve successfully and which gradually lose strategic relevance. Because the challenge is no longer attracting attention, it is sustaining significance, which raises an important question. Which of these landmarks is most likely to successfully adapt, and which may struggle to justify its position in an increasingly competitive tourism landscape? The aging indoor ski slope, the isolated expo district, the symbolic architecture designed for a different era of attention, or something less obvious? Share your perspective below, because the next shift in global tourism competition is already underway.